Welcome and thank you very much for being here. Super excited to have you. We have Remco de Vries from Insided by Gainsight. Is that what we're calling you now?
That is what we're doing.
That's
Yeah.
great. You've been called far worse things in your life, I'm sure.
Oh, hell yeah.
Indeed, we're not here to get into that. And of course, as everyone knows, I think most people might know, if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, I'm Alex Farmer from Customer Success Excellence. Pleased to be joined by Remco. I'll let you introduce yourself in just a second. But the purpose of our short interview series today is really just to get your opinion and your take on what excellence in customer success looks like. As you are aware, Customer Success Excellence is the world's first award program dedicated to customer success. We're a meritocratic awards series, really trying to highlight the best, but not necessarily the loudest voices in this customer success space, which I know, Remco, we're both disappointed means we are likely disqualified.
It's time that something like this actually came to fruition, but it's very sad for me.
Exactly. We're out of the running, but we get to interview each other on YouTube, which is, of course, a privilege for us and maybe no one else. And of course, Insided by Gainsight is a sponsor, our gold sponsor for the event. So we're very excited to have you there. Why don't you go ahead and quickly introduce yourself before we jump in?
Sure. So my name is Remco de Vries, which is difficult to pronounce in English, but you did very well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm the VP of Marketing at Insided by Gainsight. We added the by Gainsight because as of January this year, we got acquired by Gainsight, who have been a long-standing customer, but also a very good partner to us. So actually not a huge undertaking, this acquisition, because it feels like home already. And I run the marketing team for Insided.
And it's great to have you here because the tables are truly turned. As some or a few people may remember, we did a live webinar, you and I, in Amsterdam.
We did.
A couple of months ago. A lot of blenders, juices, human hairs, and everything in between. And pineapple, yes, choking on pineapple. Yep. Yeah. So you can check that out. I'm sure we'll plug the link somewhere in the comments. But the tables are turned, so anything can happen now that I'm in charge, and don't have to respond to your every beck and call.
I'm worried.
Yep. Well, let's start you off with a softball in that case, Remco. If you could describe yourself in one hashtag, okay, what would that hashtag be?
Yeah. So this is the only part of this interview that I prepared.
Unsurprising.
Yeah. So I would say hashtag unhinged.
Would you like to give more context?
Well, I think it's pretty clear from
pretty clear. Good. Well, we're going to find out together in this conversation.
I would say that I usually say nothing's too crazy, but I think a better, more professional way of saying that is that at least anything goes, or unless you have tried it before and it's failed. So I've come from this entire e-commerce testing, whatever background. So things like juicing with Remco are just neat little experiments to me to see if they can work in a B2B world. But others might call it unhinged because it's also very far from what most would consider a professional webinar.
Well, and what an era to be unhinged in, to use your term, because, we got webinar fatigue in the last couple of years. I think it's part of the reason why Customer Success Excellence held out for an in-person awards gala, right? Yeah. We're informally calling ourselves the Academy Awards of Customer Success.
Nice.
Without the slapping. Well, you're going to be there, so I'll have to watch myself, but we'll see what happens.
Are you handing out statues?
What's that? Statues, glass trophies. So they could be slightly statuesque. Nice. But also, I think the content around, the cooking show parody with the juicing and the churn, the customer health scores is another way to cut through that noise, right? So
absolutely, yeah.
You might be onto something.
Yeah, I think there's a neat balance to be found, because I don't think we found it, but there's a balance to be found out there that basically provides you with a fun and educational experience, webinar, something like that. I think we should also stop calling them webinars; they're experiences now.
Oh wow, you must work in marketing. That's a great rebrand. Very good. Well, shifting to the matter at hand, I'd love to, now that you're in the Gains, obviously, you've been a friend of Gainsight, let's say, for some time, and now are formally in the Gainsight family. So I think what's interesting is even pre-acquisition, you were really talking a lot about digital customer success, which, is a newer, customer success is a new domain. Digital CS was even newer, and community-led customer success even newer than that. So you probably have some interesting perspectives on what true innovation or excellence in customer success looks like. So I'd love to get your take on what excellence in CS means to you.
Yeah, definitely. So I have two. If we're looking at this from the digital customer success lens, I actually don't think digital customer success is super new, but I think it's just something that has become, yeah, it's like it's this thing that most companies that have been successful in the past, maybe 3-4 years or so, are just going through right now. So I feel like digital customer success is just a response to growth. So there are so many, especially for us SaaS companies, because that's who we target, that have been growing so fast, have been raising so much money, have been trying to scale their teams so fast, and just have been struggling to do so, to, especially from a customer success perspective, cope with the increasing amount of incoming new customers, onboardings, I don't know, QBRs even. So to me, digital customer success is just a very logical approach to try and add, between quotation marks, scale to your customer success efforts, because your CFO will undoubtedly tell you at some point that you can no longer hire or double your CS team because it's no longer efficient, and will ask you to please be so kind to find a more efficient way to do what you're doing and still keep all of your numbers up. So digital customer success for us has always been rooted from that belief, basically, that there are more efficient ways to do the things that you do for your customers, even if not everything can be replaced by something that is digital or automated or a campaign or something else. There are definitely very smart things that we can do there from a customer success perspective. And that's also how we always positioned inside it. So I would say that's my organizational point of view there.
Sure.
Which I think makes sense, right?
Yes, I think so. I'll speak for the audience and say yes.
Awesome, thank you. So that's, I think that's probably the most important thing. And then coming from a community background, I think customer success excellence for us has always been rooted in something that we would call a sense of belonging, because that's also very close to what I think a good community grants or achieves for its members. And that is basically just that you, through your partnership, results, value, and anything basically that you're achieving together with your customers, have created this feeling, sense of belonging that you, the CSM, but also the customer, actually has a logical place in the relationship. You feel connected together, like you could also call it a mutual feeling of togetherness. Yeah. Yeah, that it's a place where you belong. And I think from a community perspective, that already made a lot of sense. But I think also from a customer success perspective, where a relationship will always remain a very large factor in what you do, it makes perfect sense as well.
Well, it almost sets the preconditions for the individual CS professional to be successful, if you think about it, right? Because you have this kind of almost like grease in the gearbox, right? You're lubricating the machine because the customer is predisposed to have enjoyed their kind of one-to-many digital or community experience. And I think that's spot on. One of the things that you and I have discussed in the past as well is really how digital used to be a segment of efficiency, right? And I think a lot of organizations are still in that place where CFO says, okay, we need to be more efficient. You know, this is a luxury, it needs to prove its value. And part of that challenge maybe is CS is still in many businesses finding its still learning to articulate properly its contribution to revenue in a lot of spaces, I think, right? And maybe that's why we get those CFO calls that nobody likes.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting approach. I mean, from a CFO, I would expect that approach, and I think it's very logical.
Sure.
But I think we have I say we, but I actually am not a CSM, but we as CSMs have the responsibility to make sure that we do this well. And the proper, and I think thing to do from a CFO perspective would, for example, be say, let's not have any SMB client have another call with an actual CSM. They can no longer ever call us because they don't pay us enough money. And I think that's the wrong approach. So that to me is like the historic approach to scaled customer success, or tech touch, or whatever you want to call it. I believe I can't call it tech touch anymore, but that's what it used to be called. So now we have a chance and also the momentum in the market to do it the right way.
Well, and also scale it out from just the lowest tier to everybody, right? Because I think, you know, when the old way we positioned digital customer success as like a crappy solution that we had to do to become more efficient, I think we've actually seen, and you and I have discussed this a few times now, that people want digital first because they're used to that in their B2C experience. And and, they don't expect their CSM to be working at 10 p.m., but with,
Exactly.
flexible working, different time zones, they need an answer now.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So I think actually it's almost moving from reactive to proactive, just like CS did 5 years ago.
Yeah,
Does that
I
make
think
sense?
this dates back all the way to like 1980 something, when I think it was Forrester or something that did this research, and looked at self-service in B2B, and figured out that which probably in B2C was known for a lot longer than
Yeah,
that.
sure.
But figured out that in B2B also you were dealing with humans, and humans didn't want to call you for every single little thing. They just wanted to be on their way and have it be made easy for them to do their own stuff.
Revolutionary.
Absolutely revolutionary, and something that anyone should start doing now.
There you go. There's the plug, indeed. Let's push ahead a little bit here, and I'd love to talk now, kind of from the more, we've been talking a little bit more principally at a higher level in a more principled way. But let's talk, come down to the individual customer success professional. What, in your experience, have you seen are qualities or characteristics that you think are critical for a world-class customer success professional?
Yeah. So a few. I would say one is curiosity. That at least I always thought was the most pivotal for a CSM, because one, obviously you need to be curious and figure out how things are actually going for your client, what they're doing with your product, what they could be doing better, what you can bring to, for example, a QBR table to make sure that things actually change, how you can drive change as also being part of like a change management function almost. So I think that's one. But curiosity is also the thing that drives like the best experiences in customer success, right? So when you go on LinkedIn and read all these crazy stories about a CSM doing this for a customer, or sending balloons and a new dog collar to a customer because something just happened to their dog, or something else that is very grim. I don't know why I'm giving that example. Those are all born from curiosity and just like deepening the relationship that you have with the customer, and actually having some mind space to be able to do that. So I would say that's one of the most important things. The second one being focus, and also maybe time management, even though I am very bad at that, so I shouldn't be giving that advice. But I also feel like a CS and also being a CSM, it's a function that gets you lost into so many different things so easily. So I also feel like a good skill for a CSM to have is like I don't know, it's this sense of time management and having your own plan. Like, this is what I can do, and this is what I can do very successfully. And then potentially also like the data skills to be able to show that to the rest of the organization.
Well, I think you're spot on. And one of the things I've always struggled with in customer success is you can always make that one customer more successful, right? So, I can be immensely curious and figure out not just about, your dog and send you something, but figure out about your boss or an adjacent department and kind of dive really deep with that one account. But knowing when to balance that, kind of abandoning that effort because you've made an iterative gain to then focus on your portfolio of customers, that balancing act between depth and breadth is super challenging. I think.
Yeah, and I think it's difficult for a CSM. I don't know if you saw that post. I think it was from Jason from SaaStr the other day, which I think like people went crazy over because he called CSMs lazy. Now, I don't think CSMs are lazy, but I do feel like in CS, there's so much stuff going on that better choices need to be made in what you actually do and what the quality then is of also the work that you do. And this is not their fault. It's not the fault of a CSM that this is not happening right now, maybe in some companies or stuff like that. But I do feel like CSMs need to feel empowered to make their own choices there. Just like for me giving a marketing example right now, right? Like a paid digital marketer needs to make sure that the money that they are spending is actually generating enough pipeline. And they need to make sure that whatever they do, whatever they spend their week on, is probably maximizing that result. I also feel like this is something that a CSM should do when they look at their portfolio.
And for those who are watching and paying very closely attention, I think that's Remco's under the behind the radar, behind the scenes whispering to make sure that everybody buys tickets to attend the awards gala so that the inside team feels like their sponsorship was a good return on investment.
I know, because it was, yes, agreed. You haven't been able to convince me yet.
Great. Well, we look forward as a community, to use your word, to do that together over the next 3 weeks. So you heard it here first, folks. It's super interesting topic though, and I'm sure we could discuss it in a lot more detail. The one thing I'd pick up on that just super quickly is, is that Jason Lemkin post, I think it was about NRR being a metric that can encourage CSMs can be lazily skating by in high NRR companies because their KPI is net revenue retention. But if the product kind of scales itself, what is my contribution as a CSM and making it even higher? And I think it's an interesting paradox because customer success is new. Therefore, we want our seat at the table and we want a number to own. We want customer success to be at the center. So let's put NRR as a company-wide KPI. But then I, as CS, don't have my own KPI that contributes to it. If NRR is my KPI and the company KPI, if the company's doing a great job, what's my direct contribution? It's, I think, why some organizations are targeting CS on CSQLs, for example. So how many leads are we generating from our customers to lead to high NRR, right? And this balance of like wanting to be customer centric as an entire organization, but then the trade-off of that, then you not being able to wave a flag as your pure contribution to that is an interesting juxtaposition, I guess.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is because I think CS is new, and I think the one place where you really see that it's new is like in proper business acumen, right? So NRR has now risen to like the board deck of any, especially SaaS company. But I think the struggle for CSMs is not necessarily on reporting on NRR, but it's like all of the leading metrics up to NRR that can also show that they're doing the right thing, but show it 3 months prior to the board meeting.
Right. Well, and also, there's companies that have very low NRR, but it's because, let's say, the product isn't great or we're selling things we shouldn't. And then the flip side of this whole argument is that CS is getting incorrectly targeted for not doing a great job, even though they're doing their part in the entire SaaS organization's drive toward net revenue retention as the key metric. So I'm sure we'll do another cooking style show or something equally as hashtag unhinged.
I was thinking fajitas.
Fajitas, great, good. I'm going to let you connect that back to CS so I don't have to. But I'm sure you have a creative way to do so.
Oh, definitely.
They'll be extra spicy, I'm sure. I think, I have one more kind of lightning round question, which is just really, any example that comes to mind of the best in customer success, right? I mean, obviously the purpose of our awards program is to really highlight that. So in your experience, have you seen something that really rings true as an amazing example of excellence in CS other than our cooking show style webinar from 2 months ago?
No, so I would say that was the pinnacle of customer success.
That's scary. That's a scary comment.
I have a really boring answer to this, which is going to disappoint a lot of people, but
myself included. Please continue.
Yeah, probably. So I'm gonna give a shout out to my new boss, which is the worst thing that I could do. I do realize, but I do really like what he does. So I'm talking about Nick Mehta. And what I really like, and he's not even like a CSM anymore, right? He's a CEO of a company. But what I really like is that he has this ability to just pick up on small things that will make customers really happy, even though it doesn't really fix their problem, maybe, or something else. At least they know that they're being looked after and that someone's thinking about them, which I think is this, I don't know, long forgotten skills of how to do relationship management or skill of how to do relationship management in some ways or forms. I think it's super smart, even if you have a very problematic relationship with a customer or something else, or you're still waiting on that one feature that they requested or sales sold to them and it still hasn't been delivered after 3 quarters. By just being super human and thinking about them and showing that to them, I think you can go a long way. Well, and I really love that. Although I don't know if this qualifies as CS excellence, I think it's brilliant.
We'll take it. You know what? This is your time, my friend, and you've used it well. I think it goes back to what we said before a little bit around kind of setting the right preconditions or lubricating the gearbox, right? So that folks can, obviously Nick can't ship a new feature that we've promised that isn't delivered yet, but we can kind of make it easier for the teams that are executing to have the air cover or timeline to go and execute. So that's a really interesting example, and very clearly it must be performance review season over at Gainsight as well. So the subtlety is not lost on us, Remco. Well done.
I cannot confirm or deny. I don't know. I don't know what you're getting at here, Alex.
Neither do I. And that, my friend, I think is clear enough then that it's time for us to end. Yes. Thank you very much for being a volunteer to have this short conversation. For folks who are watching, you can meet Remco in person or not. He will be at the Customer Success Excellence Awards Gala in London on June 15th, where we will be awarding winners from the very first Customer Success Excellence Awards. Remco will be there. You can meet him, or you could choose not to, based on the last 20 minutes that you've seen. It's entirely up to you. You can self-select, but you can. I would love for you all to join and really kind of see maybe even better examples of excellence in customer success. We certainly look forward to that, and of course, super privileged to be supported by the Insided by Gainsight team. So that's all for now. Remco, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.